Hey there. We are going to talk a little bit more about this topic of writing in Dorico for performance. This is a situation where you want to actually record live musicians playing the music that you've scored in Dorico. And I want to talk about condensing because it comes on the heels naturally of the last two videos I did, when to use players, solo players, and when to use section players. And section players allow us to do divisi writing, which can help us write more convincing parts. Solo players, on the other hand, can reduce our budget because we can write music where the same instrumentalist switches between instruments. And it's a give and take kind of situation. Either way, whether you are writing multiple parts for the same player using solo players, or you are writing multiple parts for a section where you have a soloist, or whether you want to divide them into sections, you may run into the need to get a very thick score down compressed into something that you can read easily. Now, one of the ways you can do this in a very artificial way, there's a number of tweaks you could do in the engrave mode. You can actually use the raster size, which is a setting in Dorico to basically rasterize the graphics on a smaller scale. You can fit more into the page that way. But the most common and traditional way to do this is with condensing. And if you're using Dorico Pro, as I am in these videos, then you're going to have this condensing feature. And I want to talk a little bit about how to use it and some caveats that tripped me up. So let's go over here to my example. Now I've got in the top here, I've got the condensed version of what's in the bottom. In the top view, I have flutes 1 and 2 on the top staff, and you can see the two parts, flutes 3 and 4. Down here, they're all split. Now, if you are not familiar with this feature, you can actually create this split view. I believe it is in, where is that split view? Let's see. I might just have to look for that split. There it is, horizontal split. So it is under the window menu, and you can go to horizontal split. I have that checked. That's why I can have two scores. And the reason I like this is because when you are doing, well, there's two reasons. One is that sometimes I like to have galley view, as I do in the top, and sometimes I like to have page view. Page view will show things like my flow name, while galley view will not. I guess I actually have page view in the top, galley view in the bottom. But with condensing, you'll notice that the notes up here in the page view, these are grayed out. And down here in the galley view, they are editable. So I can move these around, and you'll see that the changes I make in the bottom apply in the top. But I cannot go the other way around. I can't change any notes that are gray. And this is just a problem that you'll run into if you are using condensing. They are shown up in gray. That means you cannot do anything with them. You can't edit them in that view. There is, I believe here under the view menu, note and rest colors, where it says condensed music here. You can click that. It doesn't give you the ability to make edits, but it's kind of a nice thing to have on because then you can see visually very easily. Anything grayed out, you can't move when you're in condensed mode. But you can certainly change the notes in the galley view down here. So, and you'll see the changes in both staffs. Okay, so what is condensed view and why would you use it? The main reason that you would use a condensed view is because, well, one is that it's easier to read, especially as a conductor. So if you've got a 20-piece orchestra that you're going to be recording, it's easier for the conductor to read a condensed score than it is for them to see all those unnecessary staves in there. It's easier to export and print these out into maybe where you want to get more instruments on a single page, not just for the conductor, but you just want to fit it on there. Maybe even if you're doing these for homework assignments in a college course, that kind of thing, you might want to condense down so that you can fit more music onto one page. The important thing to remember about working with condensed scores is, for me anyway, this is the important thing because it kind of tripped me up, is that when you're looking at the condensed story, you can't edit it directly. So this horizontal view that I have going on behind me is kind of my solution to that. So let's look at a couple of things here that I wanted to point out. One is that right here I have this G that's held out in one flute, but then I have it goes down into the E in the other flute. So it's right here where this E is played while this G in flute 4 is played over it. So you have a voice crossing here. And you can see that here. The up stem is telling you it's one voice, down stem is telling you it's another voice. But you may want to change that. Let's say you have, I actually have this configured right now to allow only one voice crossing. If you have too many voice crossings, you can change that in the setting. And if your settings do not allow for all the voice crossings, you'll notice that actually it just doesn't condense. And that kind of tripped me up first time I tried to use this, and I turned on condensing, it didn't turn it on. So when let's just talk about how you turn it on. Under the edit menu down here, you'll see condensing, and you want to make sure that's checked. If I uncheck that, you'll see that my page view goes back to the same as the galley view. So I'm going to go turn on condensing, and it does that automatically. But there are some settings related to condensing over here in notation options. I'm going to open that window up. And specifically, if you look in the condensing section here, there is this little maximum number of pitch crossings. Now check this out. I've allowed 1, and there is 1 in my piece. But if I go to 0 and hit apply, you'll notice that it no longer condenses flute 3 and 4. And I can actually go through and I can make changes. You'll notice they're not colored in gray anymore. That means I can make live changes to them. I don't have to come down to the galley view. But you may find something like this where you turn on condensing over here in the menu, and then either none of them or some of your staves are not condensed correctly. And the reason why that occurs has to do with whether or not pitch crossings are allowed. So if I have this at 0 and there's one pitch crossing here, one voice crossing, well, then it's not going to condense those. But if I knock that up to 1, hit apply, it does condense them. So just be aware of that, because it caught me up a little bit the first time that I was trying to use the condensing and exploring its functions. So let's talk about a few caveats, things that you should know when you're using condensing. It will not condense things that are on a grand staff. So we have like a piano, we have a treble and a bass clef together in one staff. It won't condense those. It's the algorithms built into Dorico are looking for similar instruments, so it's not going to condense, a flute with a piccolo. Now you could do that with some settings here. Let me actually show you where that is, because that's actually pretty handy. It is under, let me think, there are settings, and it's condensing. Let's see here. I'm going to go to condense groups. I can't actually remember exactly where that was. So let's go to notation settings and see if it's by any chance in here. No, there's an ability to set up your condensing groups. Condensing. I'm sorry. I have done this before, but I don't use it a lot. Condensing group. It might just be in the straight up preferences for Dorico. Let's see here. No, it's not there. What about, sorry to waste your time back here. Let's go with layout options. Maybe it's in there. There it is, condensing. Okay. So here, if you wanted to, you could actually create a custom group. You could say, I want to pick, let's say that we didn't just have a bunch of flutes here, but let's say we had a piccolo and a flute, and you wanted to condense those, and Dorico was not naturally doing that. Or maybe you want to put a trombone with a tuba or something. You do want to condense similar instruments. They may be not exactly the same. They're not just two flutes, but a piccolo and a flute. You can actually do that here. You can select multiple instruments, and then I'm going to cancel this. It'll add a listing here under custom condensing groups, and then those custom condensing groups will apply. So that's a way that you could get it to condense instruments that are not similar, not the same instrument, like flute and piccolo, for example. It won't condense if there are too many voice crossings. We talked about that. I'm just looking at some of my notes. It cannot be edited on parts, but it can be in galley view. We talked about that. That's why I've got this split view with galley view and page view. This also only works on solo players. So if you have in setup created session, let's go over to setup, section rather, if you've added a section player here rather than solos, you cannot do condensing on sections. You see, I've got this flute up here that this is from a previous video, that is a section player. These with the little icon for one person, these are all solo players. You can only condense solo players. So those are some of the caveats to keep an eye out for. Condensing can make your score a lot more readable, and it's essential for a conductor score. Now, if you found this video helpful, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep going with this in the new year. I am kind of having a looser schedule here over the winter break because I'm actually out of town. And so please stick with me. I look forward to getting going with some new topics in the new year. And please suggest topics. If there are questions you have that you'd like me to answer or features you'd like me to look into, please leave them in the comments below. And thank you so much for supporting my channel. And I will see you again soon. All right, bye for now.